Shri GVL Narasimha Rao.
Thank you, Chairman sir. I stand to support the amendment bill which seeks to give a tenure up to 5 years to the Director of the Enforcement Directorate. I think the bill that we are discussing now relates to the Enforcement Directorate, which actually oversees the enforcement of two major acts of Parliament, the PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and the FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act. And I don't know why the opposition chose not to participate in discussion on this bill, because both the bills seek to give continuity to these institutions. They also have enabling provisions to ensure that both the ED and the earlier bill, that CBI, can function more effectively. What has the opposition got to oppose or to fear these particular amendments, which ought to have been welcomed by the entire House? Prime Minister, under Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, in the last 7 years, we have ended the era of political corruption. We have ended crony capitalism. And also there has been a series of punitive steps taken against financial fraud and also malpractices. To cite certain achievements of the present establishment, the present government, I would like to mention a couple of facts. In the last 7 years, I think particularly so in 17, 3.338 lakh companies which were considered to be shell companies. I think this is the staggering number. Possibly nowhere in the world would you encounter such a abnormality. 3.38 lakh companies were found to be shell companies. The ED had taken a decision to shut them down. More than 1 lakh directors, 1.06 lakh directors in different companies were found to be either fake or were found to be not bona fide members of the respective companies. And a decision also was made to debar them. This government and the Enforcement Directorate, in the last 7 years, I would like to mention some statistics. As of now, as on date, 888 prosecution complaints are filed under PMLA, and these cases are under different stages of trial. It would be important to know these numbers are very significant. Properties worth 89,547 crores were attached under PMLA cases, these 888 ongoing cases, and 50,945 crores have already been confirmed by the adjudicating authority. So the kind of detection of unaccounted money is significant. The numbers are really staggering. In order to fast-track trial under PMLA, increase in effectiveness and increase in the effectiveness of prosecution, new frameworks, legal framework has been put in place, new standard operating procedures have been put in place, and the amendment that is being brought now is an extension of one of these measures to ensure that the head of the organization has a longer tenure to be decided, the extension to be decided by a committee that is prescribed under the 2003 Act of Parliament, under the Central Vigilance Commission Act of 2003, and therefore this extension will have certain safeguards, and the extension can go on up to 5 years. Honorable Minister said in many countries this extension, these officers hold their office for a very long time, and sometimes even in perpetuity. And the Financial Action Task Force, the statement of objects also mentions how the Financial Action Task Force, which is actually to which more than 200 countries are signatories, how it is actually put in place certain oversight mechanisms to ensure that the institutions that are required to oversee or prevent finance, terror financing in their respective countries, they have to perform, they have to conform to certain procedural frameworks. And India is due for renewal. I think there will be a renewal of this review mechanism going forward in 2022 and 23, and therefore it would be important for us to have stability and continuity in the Office of the Enforcement Directorate to ensure that we are able to take all the cases to their logical conclusion. Terror financing on one part, and another problem that we had seen was how people could rob the banks of thousands of crores of rupees and go with impunity in the past. But under Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, we have ensured that every penny that is borrowed from the banks and every person who has borrowed from the banks is made liable for repayment. I'll just mention a few of these cases. Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, and Mehul Choksi together have caused a loss of 22,586 crores to the public sector banks, and due to the credible investigations carried out, assets worth 19,111 crores were attached under PMLA, of which 15,113 crores have been restituted to the public sector banks. The State Bank of India alone was able to recover 7,975 crores by selling only a part of the assets. So this shows how under Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, the Enforcement Directorate was able to take effective steps to ensure that those who ran away with India's money were actually made to pay for it, were actually made to recover. 50 cases of terror funding have also been taken up by the Enforcement Directorate, which has resulted in detection of proceeds of crime to the tune of 1,200 crores, of which 881 crores were attached. So this also shows how the ED has been able to not only keep a watch on the terror financing in the country, but also to ensure that the money, that the terror financing is not only detected, it is actually recovered. Searches in case of Popular Front of India with credible investigation resulted in arrest of a person and identification of proceeds of crime of 120 crores. So certainly both on the side of curbing terror financing as also money laundering, the agencies have been extremely effective. I would like to draw attention of the House to a certain number of factors. The opposition, though they are not present in the House today, they had made certain critical observations about these amendments. And I'm at a loss to understand why they did not choose the floor of Parliament to make those statements. But it's important that we address them. And one of the reservations was why was the term of the Enforcement Director, which expired in November 2020, why was it extended by 1 year? This is a question that they had raised. And this was a question that was raised in Supreme Court as well. An Honorable Supreme Court upheld the decision of the government to give a 1 year extension. And I would like to read from page 29 of the judgment, which clearly stated that the decision to extend the tenure of the second respondent, that is the incumbent enforcement director, is pursuant to the recommendations made by the high-powered committee consisting of the Chief Vigilance Commissioner as the chairman, other Vigilance Commissioners, and the Secretary of Home and Secretary of Personnel. The decision to extend the tenure is pursuant to the recommendation. We have upheld the power of Union of India to extend the tenure of Director of Enforcement beyond the period of 2 years. This is what the Honorable Supreme Court mentioned. It said, reasonable period of extension can be granted to facilitate the completion of ongoing investigations only after reasons are recorded by the committee constituted under Section 25A of the CVC Act. So certainly, the decision of the government not only has been upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court, but it has certainly found valid reasons for it as registered by the high-powered committee that gave the extension. In this amendment, the government is saying that even the earlier acts mention that the period of appointment will be not less than 2 years. So going by the existing legal provisions also, we could have given it for a longer duration. But the Honorable Court made some observation which said, we make it clear that no further extension shall be granted to the second respondent. So it was felt incumbent to ensure that we are able to give a longer extension if the situation so called for it, so that we can ensure that the ongoing investigations into the existing cases can be continued. I will only mention a few other facts, Chairman Sir, before I conclude. I think regarding, as regards the political allegations made by the opposition, we would like to only counter them by saying how the institutions, be it the CBI or the ED, were subverted under the previous governments. Let me take the classic case of Bofors. This is a report by the former director of the CBI, Mr. R.K. Raghavan, in a book titled A Road Well Traveled. Mr. Raghavan, who was the chief of the CBI from 4th January 1999 to 30th April 2021, he makes very important observations, and this is certainly something for our opposition members to ponder over. He says, if the historic investigations did not ultimately succeed in the court, it was because of several factors. The chief among them were the change of government in 2004. He says, the CBI faced several constraints and obstacles. I think it's a longer paragraph. I will quickly run to the most relevant part. The Bofors case will remain an example of how a genuine case can be deliberately sabotaged by a government run by a party which has a lot to hide from the public. The guilt here rested squarely on the shoulders of those who controlled the CBI in the 1990s and later during 2004 to 2014. If the CBI registered a preliminary inquiry in 1988, it was solely because of the huge public furor created by the Swedish radio and Hindu disclosures. So certainly, he himself, this is a former director who also supervised for the time of the period he was heading the CBI. He was in charge of the Bofors case, and he says the government led by Rajiv Gandhi had no option but to do a thorough investigation, even if it meant an unobtrusive operation whitewash. This is a former CBI director describing how the investigations were subverted during the Congress regime. Also, let me draw your kind attention to a expose by Republic Television channel. On the Republic TV, this is what they say. Republic TV was able to access a secret memorandum from 1992 February 1 that lays bare an attempt by the then Congress-led government to scuttle the ensuing Swiss probe into illegal remittances. I think this story relates to a former minister in P.V. Narasimha Rao's government who actually had to resign subsequent to certain disclosures. And these are, as per the media reports, these are some of the contents of the memo. This was an unsigned memo handed by a former foreign minister of India to the then foreign minister of Sweden at a World Economic Forum meeting, an unscheduled meeting, where this document was given, for which he had to eventually resign. This is how the institution of CBI was subverted. This is the Colgate scam. How the CBI was subverted. CBI files fresh affidavit in Supreme Court on coal scam. We all know how the Supreme Court called it how the Supreme Court called the CBI a caged parrot. This is an important sentence I'd like to read from this particular news report, Chairman Sir. The heart of the Colgate report was changed on suggestions of the government officials. This is what the Supreme Court said. The Apex Court called it a caged parrot speaking in its master's voice. It's a sordid saga that there are many masters and one parrot. Job of CBI is not to interact with the government officials, but to interrogate, to find the truth. These are observations of the Honorable Supreme
Honourable
Court.
Member, please conclude.
Yeah, I'll just finish. Commenting on the law minister, the then law minister, the court said that a minister can ask for a report, but cannot interfere with the CBI probe. Even the Attorney General at that time, actually, he also had an interaction with the CBI officials before they filed the report, and the court found fault with it. I think these are several instances which tell us how the CBI was subverted in the previous governments, but this government had certainly maintained arm's distance and ensured. I will cite this in the end, Chairman, sir. Please allow me this indulgence. This is the appointment of a Central Vigilance Commissioner. In 2006, Mr. P.J. Thomas was appointed by the high-powered committee. At that time, the leader of the opposition, Srimati Sushma Swaraj, appointed to his appointment because of certain charges against him, but the government went ahead and appointed him. Eventually, the Supreme Court struck down that particular appointment, saying he is not eligible because they said Justice Kapadia, who wrote the judgment, held invalid the high-powered committee's decision and pointed out that as of date, Mr. Thomas was accused number 8 in Kerala Pamalin case pending in the court of the special judge Thiruvananthapuram. So the opposition, which has been making unwarranted criticism of this government, must ensure that they have a lot of skeletons in the cupboard. And certainly, it would not suit them if we have a very open and an honest discussion on this, because we have ensured that these institutions are, they conform to the integrity and honesty expected of them. Thank you, Chairman, sir.
Thank you. Shri Rakesh Sinha ji.